Welcome back. You're still watching the morning show here on Arise News. Now, many of us don't understand the journey of food from farm to plate. We often see agriculture only from the farming outlook, whereas there is an entire value chain involved. Joining us now to speak on the financing and processing side of this great sector that used to be the mainstay of Nigeria's economy are Lola Masha and Kudzai Hove of BABBAN GONA Farm Services and Amayi Foods. It's great to have you on the program. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great. So what area of the value chain exactly do you work in? Let's start off there and give us some information on that area of the value chain too.
Okay. So I work in the food production part of the value chain, and what we do is we work with smallholder farmers in northern Nigeria to support them through planting all the way through storage and then access to markets as well.
Amazing.
And you could say?
We are in the processing part of the value chain. So we produce products, African food products packaged that utilize locally sourced inputs. So we are basically buying what people like Lola would produce.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to you, Lola.
Yes.
So now, food security is a huge topic at the moment.
Yes.
And there's the argument, peasant farming or industrialized farming. You clearly are on the side of peasant farming. Why?
So I would call it smallholder agriculture versus peasant farming. But let's take a step back and look at the statistics, right? Agriculture still makes about 25% of our GDP in Nigeria. That is significant. Right now, in terms of how we practice it in Nigeria, 95% of our farmers are smallholder farmers. They need to be supported. They need to be given access to financing, access to best practices to improve their yields, as well as access to market to allow them get the best prices for their crops. So it is quite important for us because they still make up a substantial proportion of agriculture in Nigeria. Now, they clearly face challenges that we need to think about helping them address and finding solutions to make them a lot more productive.
But do you think we're putting enough emphasis on industrial farming? Because to be very honest with you, 25% of our GDP is huge. But imagine what our GDP, what we could be getting into our GDP that generates revenue from agriculture if we had put more focus on industrial farming. Do you think that's a huge problem that we're facing right now?
So I also think that there's another value that smallholder farmers provide that we've not spoken about yet, and that is employment, right? If you think about the level of unemployment in Nigeria currently, it's currently started at over 40% of our population is unemployed. Now, 70% of the population in Nigeria is in agriculture. Of that 70%, food production in Nigeria is done by smallholder farmers. And consequently, it's important that we don't necessarily get rid of that bulk of employment by commercializing. And I think it really has to be a balance, right? I don't think it's one versus the other. It's finding the right balance between supporting our smallholder farmers, which is currently how agriculture is done in the country, but still ensuring that we are moving them to improve technologies, moving them to improve productivities, and supporting them to be a lot more effective in their day-to-day activities.
Well, I would actually, on that side of the divide, I'm on your side because we just had this previous guest. We talked about recycling, environmental, activism, and I feel like industrial farming with the use of fossil fuels, all the water that it wastes, I do prefer, as you call it, smallholder farming.
Yeah.
I actually like to really think of it as peasant farming. I like that, it evokes a really nice image. Yes. It makes you feel good, that grassroots. For food security, I think that is the model that we should go with. However, people like yourself have to come in and refine it such that, what we've always been told, that it's not a lack of production in a lot of cases, it's the processing. We have all these tomatoes going to waste, which brings me to you, Kudzai, about your products. So can you tell us about your products and the challenges that you face in sourcing your products?
So our products, as I said, use primarily local ingredients, so onions, ginger, garlic, fresh peppers, tomatoes. The challenge that we normally have, the challenges vary, but they're related primarily to seasonality. So the price of onions can fluctuate up to 5 times. The same thing with tomatoes, peppers. Sometimes the variety that is being used is not necessarily the best for this particular climate. And in addition to that, well, when you combine that, it has an effect on price, volatility and availability just in general. So, I mean, we've all heard the statistics, as you say, about the post-harvest losses, et cetera. So for us, what we're looking to do is to work with smallholder farmers to be able to, we'll have sort of a win-win partnership whereby we're not buying at the lowest price, because I don't think that incentivizes farmers to work with us, but we're buying at a fair price that enables them to reduce the losses, but also gives them some sort of predictability in terms of what income they're going to be able to earn over the course of the year. So that's particularly important for us.
Great. And if you could give yourself a report card in terms of your processing, and would you say that you process to the point where we can export these goods out of our country, we can export these goods and sell them at a fair price again over in the West, for example? Would you say that's the level of processing that you're currently at?
Well, we are working on it. It's always a work in progress. But we are currently selling on Amazon in the US.
Amazing.
Products, yeah. So, and it's been good reception. So for us, that is it's the beginnings of something that we see as having great potential. And if we can get the relationships with the farmers lined up, that's even better for us. Can
you actually describe your products to our viewers? What are the products?
That would be a good thing. The products, we have pepper sauces and also tomato pepper paste. So the first product that we have, we launched as a Ghanaian pepper sauce. One of my partners is Ghanaian, so that's where it comes from. And then we also launched a new product more recently called Rodo pepper, which is made out of Atarodo pepper. And we're about to launch a new tomato pepper paste into the market. So again, we're trying to develop the products that they're locally tailored. They've got a local taste, local flavor, because we're using local ingredients.
And in terms of the financing aspects as well, how is this money recovered and brought back into the
from the sales?
Yeah.
Well, we're reinvesting everything that we make. The products are sold in ShopRite and big local
I think I've seen Rodo pepper before, actually. Yeah. Do you have a yellow lid? Does it have a yellow top?
It has the
yellow
poi has a yellow.
Yeah, I think I have seen it before. Brilliant.
So, thank you. So we do sell in the major retailers here also, but we're rolling out in the local markets, in the open markets. But pretty much everything that we have, we reinvest in the business, and we've raised money from angel investors too. So that's been good for us.
Great. So I want you to address this point that Kudzai made about the price volatility. How does BABBAN GONA come in at that point?
Yes. So what we do with our smallholder farmers is they bring their crops to us, and we help provide storage opportunities post-harvest. Because we're able to hold the crops for longer periods of time, we're also able to get better pricing for them. One major challenge that smallholder farmers have is the ability to hold their crops and store in a way that actually keeps the integrity of that product and protect it from rodents, from moisture, or even from theft. Right? And because we have access to large buyers as well, we're able to negotiate better pricing on behalf of our farmers. Our farmers actually are shareholders in the business, right? So we work on their behalf. We negotiate better pricing from clients like Poi from Kudzai, as well as other large buyers as well. And we then share that profits back with our smallholder farmers.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And it seems as though you guys are doing a lot of work here. Do you also train farmers and go into that? Or?
Absolutely, we have to, right? Because if you think about the type of education that smallholder farmers have, it's quite limited. The way that they've learned to farm primarily is through generational knowledge, right, or knowledge transfer from their fathers or from their forefathers. And what you find is oftentimes it's not always rooted in science. So some things around how best to apply their input, right, the fertilizers and so on, when to apply, how much to apply, what combination should they even use for the quality of soil that they have. Oftentimes they don't have access to that knowledge. So what we do is we bring that science onto bear, and we help field officers that go out to work with our farmer members to train them, educate them on how best to improve their yields.
And apart from that training, you give them financial credit. Can you talk about that? And what is the rate of repayment?
Yes, that's right. So one of the big challenges for smallholder farmers is access to financing. You have to think of agriculture as a business, which really is the way it should be thought about. However, for any business, as you know, you need investments to get started. You need financing to invest in your farm. That money goes to buy high-quality seeds that would improve your yields. If it's hybrid seeds, to buy good crop protection products, to protect your farm from pests, from rodents, and so on. And even to buy fertilizers, right, to also help you improve your yield. Oftentimes, smallholder farmers don't have access to that financing, right? They don't have a credit record. They barely even have title to their land most of the time, so they can't simply walk into a bank branch and get a loan. So what we do is we essentially get financing on their behalf. We work with domestic banks locally, but we also raise funds outside the country as well. We then lend those funds to our smallholder farmers by giving them inputs to allow them invest in their farms. And they pay back at harvest with their crops. Right, so we give them input on credit, and they pay back with their crops at harvest. Because they see the value of what we provide to them, it's a very high repayment rate. We've achieved about 99% repayment rate, right? Because again, they see this as opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have.
That's great.
Yeah. That is so impressive. And it just goes to show that people just need the opportunity.
Honestly.
Yes.
And we wish that's an opportunity that would be given more. But one opportunity that may be given now to a lot of people working in agriculture, a lot of farmers in particular, is one that we can see through the new Africa Free Trade Continental Area Agreement, which now, of course, allows free trade between African countries that are signed up to this agreement. Do you think that, how do you think Nigerian food products are going to do based on this agreement in terms of our trade? Do you think this is healthy competition for us, or do you think it's quite a risk that we're not ready to take?
I think it's healthy competition, and I think that the market clears. Basically, we have a saying in finance, but the market clears. And I think what you'll see is countries stepping up where they can. And being pushed to step up because, at the moment, if there's no competition, people are not really going to do anything about it. So countries will step up where they can, and others will step in where they can't. So I think this is something that makes sense, especially given that for a lot of African countries, their major trading partners in a lot of goods and products are not in Africa, which makes no sense whatsoever. So to fuel African growth, I think we need to be able to take advantage of these kinds of initiatives.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you about organic farming, because there's this argument now that is becoming obsolete because everybody is using pesticides, no matter what level of agriculture or farming that you operate at. What are your thoughts on this?
It's a very good question. And I think it's one that we always have to think about. I think the way we think through it is more sustainable agriculture, right? Because even organic farming has its pros and cons, but it's about how do you ensure that as we produce food to feed the growing population in a way that minimizes damage to the soil, in a way that uses the least amount of input possible. And what you often find is that when you plant on a smaller plot of land, essentially you're able to actually control in a much tighter way the volume of, if it's herbicides, pesticides, or even fertilizers that you need to apply to that soil. It's a lot more targeted. You can test the soil quality and determine exactly what proportion of crop protection product you need.
Thanks, Lola. We're going to continue after the break, but this is why I prefer smallholder agriculture. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be back with Lola Masha and Kudzai Hove. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still with Lola Masha and Kudzai Hove of BABBAN, GONA Farm Services and Amayi Foods. Just before the break, we were talking about the rather alarming use of pesticides, with the health implications and what have you. And I was most comforted by your answer. Where do you stand on that argument?
On the use of pesticides?
Yes. Is that a priority for you when you're sourcing for Amayi Foods?
Well, for us, the priority is the safe use of inputs. And knowing what kind of pesticides are being used, herbicides, etc. Organic farming is great, we believe, but we also find it's challenging because we're also trying to offer affordable products. And organic farming, because of the scale that it's done and the lack of inputs, I guess, becomes more expensive. Frankly, the product becomes more expensive. So in a market like this, for us, affordability is a big issue, but we also don't want it to go against issues such as health, the general health of our customers. So we are concerned by the kinds of pesticides and the way they're used. But we're not against it. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
Fair enough. And I mean, I guess also when it comes to food security, the end goal here for everyone is to make Nigeria food secure.
Yeah.
And recently we had a ban put on Forex for food importations through the Central Bank of Nigeria. And this was said to have been a part of that initiative to get Nigeria to a point of food security and self-reliance. But do you think Nigeria is at that stage where we can really put a ban on Forex for food importations coming in? Or do you think that's going to hurt our market in a way and we should just keep on working till we get to a stage where we can do that and the method can be applicable? What's your take, both of you?
Yeah, I think it has to be a measured approach. I think there are certain food items that you could probably ban right away, but it's not realistic in all cases. Again, you have to measure what impact it has on the broad population. Does it now start affecting the affordability of basic products? And once it does that, then I think you need to relook at that. And I think that over time, definitely the potential for Nigerian agriculture is there. It's the kinds of resources that this country has. We ensure that it would be successful if it's actually something that we put our minds to. So over time, we would definitely step up. But I think in terms of banning, it has to be measured. Yeah.
I do think, to build on what Kudzai said, there is a range of options between allow everything in and ban items coming in. I think we need to think about exploring those range of options.
It started off as 43 items, right?
Right.
And then it went on to just a Forex ban for food importations as a whole.
Exactly. So there's a variety of policy options that we can explore as a country, right? It could be controlling the volumes that come in. Could be controlling where it's coming from to ensure we have high quality produce and crops for our consumption. And it's also thinking through, are we implementing the right policy framework to support domestic production, right? Because we do have to feed 200 million people in Nigeria, right? Now, right? In the future, we expect that to grow even tremendously. So do we have the right policy framework? Do we have the right support for agriculture, be it smallholder or commercial agriculture, for that to truly thrive in Nigeria? Do we have the right structures around mechanization? Do we have the right structures around quality control? Do we have the right structures around storage, right? So we don't have 50% post-harvest loss across the value chain, be it vegetables or be it grains. And are we implementing that in a way that is sustainable to get the right balance between domestic production and import?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the structures that we have in place? We have the Ministry of Agriculture announcing this, that, and the other every so often. You have the CBN with all the interventions, and Cobora program and what have you in the agricultural space. What are your thoughts on the efficacy of these?
Right. So those interventions are quite effective. We do participate in those interventions as well. I would commend the CBN for the process in which they've implemented some of these intervention programs. I think what we have to think about is, are we thinking through the entire value chain, right? So from crop production, but all through processing as well, through mechanization, right, to improve productivity, through storage, right? Are we thinking through the entire value chain? And even exports, right? There's no reason why we are constantly focused on production primarily for domestic use. There are lots of crops that we produce in Nigeria that can and currently is being exported. But what are we doing to support industries and companies that are in that space to increase forex generation for the country?
And actually, that's what I was just going to ask you, because I believe now that agriculture contributes 5.1% to export earnings that we're currently getting in. So how can we raise that? How can we start to work towards increasing that percentage?
Yeah. If we think about why it's not higher than that, the one reason is quality of our produce, right? Other countries that are looking to import our produce have certain standards, and it's ensuring that as we go through the agricultural value chain, that we are producing using the best, sort of best class standards, world-class standards, using best practices, and ensuring that we are up to par with global standards. So I think that's sort of ground zero, is ensuring that what we are producing for domestic use and for export definitely meets those quality standards. And then it's ensuring that, okay, how do we then increase production of that over time such that we are price competitive, right? That we meet quality standards, and that we are also supporting and making that space attractive for producers in the industry.
Do you actually address that specifically? Because we do read of these high rates of rejection from the EU, from the US. Mm-hmm. Do you address that with your farmers and train in that area?
Right. Currently, we focus on domestic demand, right? Simply because the demand is quite significant, which is why we're exporting so much food. We have not explored export just yet. However, as we support our farmers for domestic production, we ensure that we test our produce, right, our grains, right, if it's maize, if it's rice, for different types of toxins, right, if it's aflatoxin, if it's fumitoxin, and that we are ensuring that it's below certain thresholds. And frankly, some of our customers also, they're international buyers, they have international standards, and they test the crops before they accept it. So it's in our interest, it's in the interest of the farmers as well, to ensure that we are producing in line with global standards, even if we're not exporting. Because even our domestic buyers do have requirements, right, around quality, around safety, that we need to meet.
Absolutely. And Kudzai, coming back to you now as well, in terms of processing, obviously this is something we wish more was being done of. And we can all familiarize with smelling rotten tomatoes, smelling rotten peppers, going through the markets, and you're like, okay, why are the majority of the peppers here rotten? And we have a serious problem when it comes to the amount of food that's being wasted because of poor processing. So let's talk in real terms here, in real figures. How much food is going to waste daily in Nigeria because of the lack of processing that we're seeing in agri?
Yeah, I would go back to Lola's statement that it is at least 50% losses that you're seeing across whether it's vegetables, whether it's grain.
So, 1 second. If we didn't have that high figure, that extremely high figure, do you think Nigeria could be food secure?
Yeah, there was a study that, or a report that PwC did a couple of years ago, and in tomatoes alone, they had estimated about demand for about 2.3 million tons. And then they said about half of that, half of what was produced was lost. So that was made up for with tomato paste imports. So if we were able to stop those post-harvest losses, we would definitely be able to meet domestic demand for tomatoes. So it is quite significant. And again, to Lola's point, storage is a big issue, especially for vegetables like tomatoes, which are very sensitive to temperature and conditions. Peppers are the same. They will not, once you pick them, they're not going to last a long time.
Personally, I put them into a Ziploc bag in my freezer because, I understand.
Yeah, and you have the benefit of that, but then if you think about generally population who don't have a freezer, how they, exactly. Although they are, I've heard of an initiative where they're creating storage, underground storage, using actually fairly old techniques, like the sort of mud hut technique with straw. And that is managing to keep tomatoes fairly cool underground, which is great that, you can go back to old sort of technologies to address new problems.
Because that was the essence of the mud hut, wasn't it?
Yeah, to keep cool, exactly.
Cool, yeah.
Wow.
Since power is such a problem.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you about your career path that you chose, because African convenience food used to be a contradiction in terms, quite frankly. The whole idea was to really labor in the kitchen for hours and hours. Why did you decide to go into this field?
Well, my partners and I have a passion for African food, and we really felt that it's been let down in so many instances by issues like availability of inputs, the quality of the inputs, packaging, distribution. And so we wanted to change that, which is why we kind of went into this experience. So we wanted to make African food more accessible and easier to make. So Africans generally, we still like to cook. We don't really want to sort of like put our stuff in the microwave and eat it. So we do like to cook. So we wanted to create products that enable people to still have that experience of cooking, but cut down the cooking time from stovetop to table to less than 30 minutes. And that was really the point of it. And in doing so, we believe this opens up African food to more than just Africans. It makes it more accessible to people all over the world. And we think there's no reason why African food shouldn't be sitting there with Chinese food or Indian foods, a major global cuisine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And ever since the get-go of this, how have your products been faring? How have things been going for you?
Well, it's always challenging setting up a business, a new business anywhere. So it's been challenging, but it's been great. I mean, the growth has been great, the market acceptance has been great, and with the launch of our new product, we're really looking forward to even more growth.
We only have a few seconds left. I wanted to ask you, Lola, as well. What led you to smallholder agriculture in northern Nigeria?
Yes, we began the business about 8 years ago. And at the time, we noticed an increasing rise of insurgencies, right? So be it Boko Haram, be it the Niger Delta crisis, be it the Jos crisis. We began to think, what is causing this? What is leading to such a rise in insurgencies in Nigeria? And the answer that we came to was a rise in youth unemployment. 60% of our youth in Nigeria are currently unemployed. That's a staggering figure. And we thought, okay, what industry can provide?
We have run out
yes,
of
okay,
time.
but, yes.
So sorry, but thank you both so much for coming on
Thank
the show.
you.
Yeah.